Hello, welcome everybody to the Integrity IPG podcast. My name is Jordan Pahalik, and I am once again with co-host and CFP Dylan Wepkenberg. How are we doing today, Dylan?
I'm doing great as always. How are you doing?
I'm doing good as well. We have another exciting episode for you guys today. We talked about life insurance last week. Today we will be diving into annuities. So a little bit for the older crowd, but again, important for everyone to be educated on.
Yeah, this kind of thing almost ties into last week's episode with insurance because these are essentially contracts with insurance companies. So they're related in that way, at least a little bit.
Exactly. So for people that, have no idea what an annuity is, how would you best explain it to them?
I would best explain it as the first part of what I just said, where it's a contract you have with an insurance company that basically pays you a stream of income for life. It almost acts like a makeshift pension. Pensions back in the day, for people our age who maybe aren't familiar with them, you'd work for an employer for 30 years, and then you'd be sort of vested into their pension plan, which would then send you a monthly income for the rest of your life. And that's essentially what annuities are. They're just like it's like a makeshift pension with an insurance company.
Yeah. Especially nowadays, how obsolete and little there is of those.
Right, for sure.
Just allowing yourself to create your own pension, essentially.
Yep, like giving a company your retirement money, like $100,000, and then they would say, okay, with this money, we'll be able to send you $1,000 a month until you die, kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's the layman's terms. That's pretty much how they work.
Yep, exactly. So with that, then we would talk about, what is the purpose? So obviously we just kind of explained what they do and, what are the benefits of
who they're for.
Yeah, who they're for. So what is the purpose? And again, like we said, it's essentially building your own pension, but as well as last week we talked life insurance, right? And the whole point of life insurance is the risk of dying too early, where this is the opposite, where it covers the longevity risk, right? So the risk of living too long, which in today's day and age with the medicine and
it's more and more prevalent, for sure. It's a real concern for people.
Yeah, I feel like everyone that you talk to, right, knows somebody that's, living into their 90s, later 90s, or possibly even 100, where it's like, well, if I retire still at 65, where the heck is this money coming from?
Yeah,
35 years if I live that long.
Right.
So that's another big thing, right? It covers that, where in terms of, you have this pension, this paid income stream coming in, and you don't have to worry about that going away.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I guess before we really dive into more specifics about like what annuities are and some of the pros and cons to them, I'm sure there's quite a few listeners maybe that hear us say annuities and they don't like it because they just associate annuities with bad things. That's neither true nor false. Like we were saying, if you remember from the last episode, just like life insurance, annuities are a tool and people can use them in a good way or in a bad way. And I can go on Google and look up 100 reasons why annuities are amazing, and it would show me 100 plus. And I can also go in there and look up 100 reasons why annuities are the worst thing ever, and it would show me 100 plus reasons why. So for those of us out there that may have preconceived notions about what annuities are and if they're good or bad, hopefully this video helps bring you back down to earth and not think of them in any certain way, because like I'm saying, they're neither good nor bad. They're just investment tools like anything else and can be used for good or bad.
Yeah, because like everything, you shouldn't have, a strong emotional feeling towards anything when it comes to finances, because once again, these things are all tools.
Mm-hmm.
And like annuities, life insurance, they remind me a lot when it comes to, it's funny, but true, like Yelp reviews when you talk about different food or like restaurants or places like this, right? A lot of the times, right, you eat at a good restaurant, you have a really good experience. Your first instinct isn't, let me go leave a good review. And for some people it is, and that's amazing because these places need that.
Right.
But
right.
A lot of the time, and a lot of people tend to, if they have a bad experience, they go and do that.
That's the only time they would speak up about it if it was bad.
Exactly. So that's the thing, is you might hear a story from somebody you know or online where they're talking about a bad experience they have, but that doesn't account for, the 5 people that might have had a good experience that just didn't care to rate that up.
And it's also like, so we're not trying to take away from anyone that has had like a horror story or whatever, if you have had one with an annuity, because we're just trying to say that that's not the end all be all of it.
Yeah.
Those things can happen because there are bad people out there that just want to sell products and make commission off of it. It doesn't make the product itself bad. It makes the person bad. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, you're working with the right person and you're getting educated on the tool and how it can be used.
Mm-hmm.
Then from there, you can make, a decision of if it fits into your plan. Yes, not every tool and thing does, but being educated on it is at least important start and foundation.
For sure. So sort of going back to like actually how they operate, they're not really for people our age because they're like retirement accounts and you can't access them until you're 59 and a half, at least not penalty free. So the sort of the way that it works is you'd be in your 50s, let's say, and you give an insurance company $100,000. They would grow that for you over time. And then whenever you want, once you're over 59 and a half, you can begin to annuitize it. And at that point, that's when they start sending you that monthly income. So it's kind of like a two-step process. There's I give my money to the insurance company and they accumulate it, grow that money for a certain amount of years. And then once I'm ready to start having them send me that income, I flick the switch, go from accumulation to annuitization, and then they start sending me that monthly income.
Yep.
But you have to be over 59 and a half or else there's some penalties associated. So that's why we're saying, like, for people like us, not the right thing necessarily, but for older folks, then yeah, I can see it making sense.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's a tool, again, where, like you said, when you get older, you start to dial up the risk and aggressiveness back. So it's for people that are a little more conservative. Again, there's many different tools within. So, I mean, we'll go over these, but there's fixed, index, and variable. So again, it all depends. But for something like a fixed or an index rate, where you start to dial back that meter of risk and aggression and say, I want to be a little bit more conservative.
Yeah. Because the alternative for someone in retirement is to invest their money in the stock market or in ETFs or things like that, which are more risky. With this type of annuity, like the fixed one that Jordan is saying, that's like literally a contract with the insurance company that says, if you give me this amount of money right now, we'll send you this amount of money going forward for the next, until you die. Or there's some period certain, there's like some that are like 2 lives are associated with it, which is a little more in the weeds with it. But basically that's how it works, is I give you this much money now, you'll send me this much money for the rest of my life.
Yeah. And with that, you touched on the fixed, right? Where it's that fixed percentage that you get each year of growth.
Mm-hmm.
Guaranteed. Yep. There's the variable. So that is a little more aggressive or risky because, there's sub accounts where your money is in the market. So it is not protected on the downside, whereas a fixed, you can't lose money. You're getting a fixed percentage each year of growth. Variable, you can lose money. And then if we combine those and we meet in the middle, that is something called an index annuity. So you are, invested in an index of the market. So there's more growth potential than a fixed, where you can earn more than, this fixed percentage. And it also, a lot of times, it depends which, annuity or product or tool you're in, but there's a downside protection as well, which is a huge factor. So let's say you have a 10% downside protection and the market loses 6%, your account stays flat that year. You don't gain anything, but you also don't lose anything in a down market. So again, there's a lot of different, we don't want to get too into the weeds because we just want to give you a overview, easy basis to kind of understand them a little more. But there's really 3 main ones that we just talked about, and that's how they kind of work.
Yep. Yeah. Annuities themselves are pretty conservative investment products. So if this is like the whole scan of investments and this is aggressive and this is conservative, annuities are probably right around here. And then if you take a microscope and zoom into annuities, now you're inside of them and you have fixed, indexed, variable. It's sort of the same aggressiveness, where variable is aggressive, fixed is more in the middle. And then, indexed is right in the middle, and then fixed is more on the conservative side of things because what's coming in every time.
Yeah. And so there's also within these annuities, there is two different types, which one is called a deferred annuity, and then another is called an immediate annuity. So going back to when Dylan was talking about, the accumulation phase and then the annuitization, phase, where a deferred annuity has both of those, right? Where, you give the money to the insurance company, they accumulate it,
Yep.
it grows over time, and then when you're ready to start receiving those income checks, that's when you annuitize.
Yep.
Whereas an immediate annuity, so you give the money to the insurance company, and they immediately start giving you income on that. So it's, again, same thing. You're creating your own pension, but you're just reaping the rewards immediately.
Yep.
Instead of waiting on that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Again, there's a lot of different, benefits to these. Like we went over, you get the lifetime income, the market protection. Another thing we haven't touched on yet was the tax deferral on these accounts. So as the accounts are growing throughout the accumulation phase, that money is growing tax deferred.
Yep.
Which is a huge thing because, as we all know, taxes play a big role into everything when it comes to financial planning.
So like Jordan's saying, if I were to give an insurance company to start an annuity $1 million right now, and then I wait until I'm 59 and a half, so they accumulate it for all those years, I'm never paying tax on the growth in any of these years until they start actually sending me those annuity payments each month, at which point I'm paying like the sort of the difference between what my basis is and what the account has grown to, which is a little more like a math problem. But right, like Jordan's saying, you don't actually start paying taxes on any of these gains until you are actually receiving the annuity payments in retirement.
Yeah. And another benefit that we haven't talked about, which is, one of the more human, natural things that most listeners and investors and just the average person would be more inclined to care about, is the psychological impact it has on people, right? So you've worked your whole life, and again, pensions are pretty obsolete, as we all know, sadly, which they were a great tool.
Right.
But having that peace of mind knowing, the next 30 plus years, however long I live, I have a income stream coming in and I know the exact amount, that allows people to, relax a little bit. No matter how long I live, I have this money coming in the door.
Yep.
Whereas, if it's, you flip the table and you say, I'm just going to use my investment income and that's the only thing coming in. Yeah, you can plan around that and do a good job, but
it's not as certain.
It's not as certain. Yeah. Where it could deplete quicker than you expected. You never know what's going to happen in the market. And if that happens, right, there's just a little more nervousness that might come to people's mind because you don't have a fixed amount set in stone for the rest of your life.
Yep. While we're guys sort of talking about the negative or the con aspects of annuities, one of them would be like the holding period that you have to sort of satisfy, or there's surrender charges associated with this type of product. So they normally are set up where they're like 5, 7, or 9 year type of annuities where you have to be in the product and you're sort of illiquid for those years. And then each year, if you're in like a 5-year annuity, for example, every year until you get to the 5th year, you'd be sort of like vested in 20% of the account value. So if you wanted to pull out any money, there would be that much of a penalty associated with it.
Yeah.
So they're not entirely liquid. Like if you were to just open up an investment account and buy a stock, you could sell that stock the same day and pull the money out and spend it on whatever. If you bought an annuity today, you could not take out that money the same day and spend it because there's requirements that you have to satisfy for holding periods, and there's penalties associated with it. So that's one of the negative aspects to it. It's not as free moving as some other investment products are, but
yeah. And with that, again, the only other thing, and this isn't something that's, set in stone, but the reputation that we talked about.
Yeah, right.
It's gotten a bad rap over the years, and that's more so because of the people that are selling them and
That's part of it, I think. That's part of it. There's some bad reps out there that just want to make a quick buck and sell it to whoever they think they can. But like some of these annuities are also they're overly complicated, and there's too many. If this happens on this day, then you'll get this percent. But if it doesn't, then it goes back down. There's just too many. It's too confusing, even for us advisors. We have to be able to explain an annuity in layman's terms to a client for them to understand it and then want to participate or invest in it. And if we can't even really wrap our head around how this thing fully operates, then it's like, who could, you know? So it's like, it's both of them. Some of the products aren't great. Some of the advisors aren't great. And when you combine those two things, then I'm sure there's going to be some horror stories out there for some people. Yeah.
But again, that's all situation based, which is important and good, because if you don't have either of those situations, you're looking at products or have a good advisor, that's something you don't have to worry about. So that completely eliminates, that issue.
Yep.
Some of the misconceptions with it, which I know we've talked about, but so as we've talked about, some of the misconceptions that, we've been going over is, how liquid they are. And yeah, there is a surrender period where, you can't access that money, but there's also a lot of products where, God forbid, if you need, like we have recently sold an annuity where somebody put in $1 million, and if they wanted to access 10% of that, which was 100,000, they could have access to that because of the annuity they use. So
there are some stipulations involved with these for it's not like a totally just off hands completely until you satisfy the 5 years, then you can go in and grab some. There are some stipulations involved where you're able to access some of the money. It's usually just 10% per year that you're able to access. So it's not entirely frozen up, I guess.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yeah. So like you said, there is things where you can't touch it. And I mean, that is a big deal because liquidity is important, but there is ways around of if you need to access money. Hopefully you probably shouldn't be in it if you should need to access 100% of the funds anyways. We're in a couple years. But something happens, like you never know what's going to happen in life, but you have an opportunity to access something.
Not entirely hands off, right?
Yeah. Another thing would be, I've heard or seen at least and read people worry about, well, what happens if I'm a year into earning this income? I'm in the annuitization stage. I've been getting checks for a year now. What happens if I die? What happens to all that money that I've given the insurance company? And does that just go away? Do I just lose that?
So that's a great question. And the answer to it is, it depends, because there's a ton of different types of annuities. So to sort of just go through without getting too in the weeds with them, there's single life annuity, straight life annuity is sort of the same thing, which basically just means it's only on my life. I'll get paid the same amount of income forever until I die. And then once I die, the insurance company stops sending me a payment. So if I gave them $1 million and then died within a year, I obviously would not have recouped all of my $1 million, which would have been a bad deal for me. That's how straight life / single life annuities work. Then there's period certain annuities, which just means it's like 10-year period certain. You get paid a certain amount of money for 10 years, knowing that you'll at least get the amount that you invested recouped back if you should pass away within those 10 years. And then the amounts of these, because of the different benefits, also differ. So straight life, obviously, because of the riskiness with it, if something could happen the next day and you would lose out on everything that you invested with them, you get the highest amount of a monthly payment with straight life. And then as you add on these little benefits, like add a spouse on or add a period certain on, then the monthly payment starts to decrease a little bit because you have these benefits included. But yeah, to Jordan's point, there's different ways of it being paid out and how that works. It's all about how you set up the annuity, though.
Yeah, and that's all an option and a choice you'll make and what you think is best for you, depending on many different factors of health and what you want it to do for you. But again, you have that option when you were to use one of these products or tools. That is something that will be talked about and you'll decide. So the next one would be the fees, right? I feel like you hear a lot about, well, they're very high fees and I don't know if they're worth it because of that, but that's also something that depends on.
Yeah,
I think that it's a little outdated because it depends on, what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Something like a variable annuity, there's going to be higher fees.
For sure.
the the growth that it can achieve, and the reward is higher in terms of you can earn more on it, so there's going to be higher fees on that. Where in terms of something that's a fixed annuity, where the insurance company is telling you you're getting a straight fixed percentage each year of growth, and it's going to be a lower amount just because it's fixed and they're guaranteeing you're getting it.
Right.
There's going to be lower fees on that. So it's not like a one-all be-all where you can just say they're all high fees, because that's not.
No, right. Oh, yeah. Again, it's like the same thing that we've just kind of been like, I feel like hammering home this whole episode is that, yes, we are not saying that like you guys are crazy for thinking annuities are bad, or these horror stories that you say they're not true. They're not true. Like they're 100% true. We're just trying to emphasize that that's not all there is to know about annuities. They're not all crazy high fees. They're not all this, that, and the other.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's clients that we've worked with where they have been the complete opposite when we use them, and they have been success stories where people have, whether it's early in the process or they're already in the phase where they're drawing income out, they all have loved the experience they've had with them, and it's just something that contradicts what you normally hear, because sadly, especially on social media and everything, a lot of the times you hear the negative side of things. So it's good to hear the positives and the other side.
Yeah, for sure.
How some of this stuff works. In terms of that's pretty much all we have today.
A good starting point, at least. Yeah. Man, annuities, just like life insurance in the last episode, they're so complicated, and you can get so like niche with them, and the benefits and the pros and the cons and strategies and everything that goes into it. So I guess to that point, that's why it benefits clients to work with people like us who know these things pretty darn well, not perfectly, because no one knows them perfectly, but well enough to meet up with someone, understand that person, and then line them up with what product makes the most sense for them. So yeah, complicated, but not impossible.
Yeah. And I mean, you said it best. It's not going to be for everybody, but it's important to know every tool that at your disposal, because you never know, what stone you might flip over that might end up being perfect for you.
Yeah.
But again, I would say that before we wrap everything off, the key takeaways would be, it's just a tool. It's, there's many different types with many different purposes. So it depends on, the person. They address longevity. So you create that income stream for life. And once again, being a dead horse is just a tool. So it depends on how you use it and what you end up.
Neither's good nor bad. Yeah, for sure.
So that pretty much wraps this up for episode 6, Annuities 101. Letting you guys know everything there is about them and what they do. Do you have anything else to add?
Nope, nothing else for me.
Okay, perfect. Well, that wraps it up. We will see you guys next week. Have a good one.
Bye, everybody.
This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended as investment, tax, or legal advice or recommendation of any specific product or strategy. Annuities are long-term financial products issued by insurance companies. Product features, benefits, limitations, fees, and surrender charges vary by contract and insurer. Guarantees are based on the claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Variable annuities involve investment risk, including possible loss of principal. Indexed annuities are not directly invested in the market. Interest credits are subject to caps, participation rates, spreads, or other limitations. Withdrawals may be subject to surrender charges, ordinary income taxes, and a 10% federal tax penalty if taken before age 59 and a half. Tax treatment depends on individual circumstances. Consult a qualified tax advisor. Examples discussed are hypothetical and for illustrative purposes only. Actual annuity benefits and income amounts depend on age, contract terms, payout options, and insurer provisions. Securities offered through the ON Equity Sales Company, member FINRA/SIPC, One Financial Way, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45242, 513-794-6794. Investment advisory services offered through ON Investment Management Company.